Another type of grab from which we will train you to release is the choke. Like the other skills we train, this technique is weight-based, not strength-based. Also, like all the other skills, we will begin from the supportive stance. You and your co-trainer will need to demonstrate all the parts of the technique first so that the participants can see the technique before they are asked to do the technique. I will ask T.O. to step toward Bridget and place his open palms on her shoulders. It is important to point out to students that at no time during the practice of this technique should their hands come in contact with another person's throat or neck. Because there are several vulnerable structures in the neck, we do not want participants even pretending to choke each other. Instead, we will use what we call paddle hands. Notice that our palms are open and flat. Fingers are together and the thumb is tucked alongside, making our hands paddle-shaped. T.O.'s paddle hands are now placed on Bridget's shoulders to simulate being choked without posing any threat to her neck. From this point, the best way for Bridget to engage the weight of both of her arms and her core is to raise her hands up over her head in a jumping jack fashion. What we mean by jumping jack is that she will raise her arms upward laterally from her body like doing jumping jacks. Bridget should bring her arms as close to her head as possible. Some people find this easier to do if they clasp their hands together overhead. Others find it is easier to keep their arms close to their head with their hands unclasped. Whichever allows you to keep your arms closest to your head is the form you should use. Once Bridget's arms are in the correct position, she will turn. Notice that the weight and positional shift of Bridget's turning causes T.O.'s grasp to weaken, releasing her so she can exit the situation. Now that you have demonstrated the technique when being choked from the front, you will want to show participants how to apply the same technique when being choked from behind. Notice that when being choked from behind, you use the same arm raise and turn as when being choked from the front. The only difference is that as you turn from being choked from behind, you are partially turning toward the person choking you. Depending on the circumstances, you can do a partial or 90-degree turn instead of 180-degree turn and leave in that direction. Or, if the grab is not sufficiently weakened by a 90-degree turn, then you can turn 180 degrees or even farther before leaving in a direction away from the attacker. The key is to get away as soon as you feel that the grab is weakened enough to release you. When training this technique, remember to give the participants the following instructions. 1. All movements should be slow and smooth, with special attention paid to using paddle hands on shoulders. 2. At no point should hands be placed on another person's neck. 3. All techniques start from the position of the supportive stance. And 4. All participants must demonstrate turning and going, since this is the key part of all our techniques. Some common errors that participants make with this technique that you will need to correct in the classroom include the tendency to bring arms up in the front rather than to the sides in a jumping jack fashion, and not keeping the arms tucked tightly enough to the head to create the positional change that weakens this grab. So let's summarize. When training the release from choke, we use paddle hands only and never make contact with another person's neck. To release from the choke, we raise our arms up laterally in a jumping jack fashion and tuck our arms as close to our heads as we can. With arms in the correct position, we turn, weakening the grab and allowing us to exit.